I don't want a pickle. I just want to ride on my motorcycle. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Moto Podcast, episode number 272, I believe. And this one actually should be going up on YouTube with the full video. Pretty sure. Fingers crossed, guys. We're going to see and find out. We may only get about 1 hour of video on this one, but, like, who gives a shit after that, right? All right, let's see here. We have, well, first, I'm your host, MotoGP. With me is your other host, Swiggy.
Yo.
And your other host, Dr. Mike Action.
Hey.
We are obviously in the Tiki Room, and let's see, what are we going to discuss today? We are going to do Best Worst Bike in the World this week, as always, and we're going to talk about MotoGP at COTA, because Swigs, you went.
I did.
And before we get into Best Worst Bike in the World this week, we have to talk about something. And I'm going to need a lot of Mai Tai for this, so it's a good thing we all have a lot of Mai Tai.
Thanks to you, we have a lot of Mai Tai.
So I'm going to say this with love. Last week, Cleveland Moto was extraordinarily wrong about something, and I have to talk about it. Now, before I talk about that, there's two quick points I need to make. One, Cleveland Moto is probably a better motorcycle podcast than this one. In general, what is indisputable is that, in general, they are way more accurate than we are. Right? They just have a lot more tribal knowledge. They're all around that dealership that Phil owns and runs very, very well. He is known coast to coast amongst dealers for being a fucking expert. Several of the Cleveland Moto guys, well, really all of them have been extraordinarily generous with me, letting me ride their motorcycles at Mid-Ohio, fixing their motorcycles for me to do stupid burnouts on, texting back and forth with me for information, times I've been stuck fixing things. They are an awesome group of guys whose opinion I respect very, very much. But I have a strange disability, and it requires me to talk about this thing that they were wrong about. So my disability is this. I don't have as many different kinds of truths as other people. So I used to be a restaurant manager. And, once a week or so, I'd have to go up to somebody and say, hey, we're going to be slow. You're cut. We don't need you tonight. Clock out, go home. And then someone would go, oh my God, you said we're going to be slow. Now we're going to get a huge rush. And I would say, no, that's not how the universe works. And they'd be like, dude, it's going to happen. Right? Now, if you put a gun to that person's head and said, does me saying that actually mean it's going to happen? They'd probably say no. But in the moment that they're saying it, they believe it. It's true to them. It's a different kind of truth than, capital T truth, right? I'm not going to say I have only one definition of truth, but I have less definitions than the average person. And this makes my brain a little bit of a prison. But because of that, I have to talk about how Cleveland Moto was wrong. I'm not upset that they were wrong. It is okay to be wrong. God knows we are ridiculously wrong at least 8 times an episode. It is okay that someone's wrong. It is just my little weird issue that I have to talk about this. So Phil got very passionate for like 40 minutes claiming that Teslas are especially dangerous to motorcyclists. And not only is there zero evidence to back this up, there is evidence to the contrary. And I only have to explain why Cleveland Moto was wrong in order to say anything other than pointing a finger at yourself for motorcycle safety is a huge mistake. This is all really to say those words, but I have to explain how they were wrong to drive that point home. So,
do you remember what his argument was? Also, my mic's off.
yeah, I don't know why your microphone is off. Do we know?
I do not know.
Oh,
But your microphone is definitely off for some bizarre reason. We can probably fix this.
it was on a second ago.
It was on a second ago. Well, hold on. I'll just keep going. We'll fix it in a moment. So, before I lose my train of thought here. So, a YouTuber put out a video recently because I don't know when exactly, but at some point not too long ago, Tesla dropped LiDAR from their cars.
This is quite a while ago, but yeah.
When was it?
Oh, this is like 2018 or 2017. This is a long time ago.
Oh, was that long ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that actually makes my case that they were wrong even stronger. So they dropped LiDAR from their cars. Now, a YouTuber named Mark Robber, he's the guy, I believe, that did the bullseye every time dartboard.
Yeah.
You know that guy? Is it
Rober.
Rober?
It's Mark Rober.
Mark Rober.
Rober, whatever.
Yeah.
This is how much kids YouTube I watch, right? None. Because this guy makes a lot of kids fucking videos, apparently. I didn't know who he was. I looked at the video and I was like, oh, my kids watch this guy sometimes. So, he made a video, and what he did was he created a Looney Tunes style Wile E. Coyote mural across the road and got a Tesla to crash into it. Supposedly, this means that everyone's in crazy danger, and a Tesla's going to hit them. And so this is a logical fallacy. The logical fallacy, I think, is called pre hoc ergo post. And it means there's a new piece of evidence that overwrites everything, is the logical fallacy. And no. So Phil made the claim that Teslas are dangerous because they don't have LiDAR. And to quote Phil, the bodies have been piling up. So I took a look into road deaths involving Teslas and road deaths involving Tesla autopilots. It's something like, since 2019, about 500 road deaths, involving autopilot about 55. Auto road deaths involving motorcycles was like, I don't know, maybe like 20 of those. And almost all of them were a motorcycle going into the wrong lane and hitting a Tesla, as in motorcycle at fault. Almost all of them. In fact, for the number of Teslas on the road, they have one of the lowest accident death rates. So, by a specific definition of the status quo of safety amongst all car makers, Teslas are actually safer for you because of all the built-in, lane assist and whatever. Think about how many drunk drivers didn't swerve out of a lane because of their lane assist and blah, 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 all kinds of things. So, in any case, it doesn't matter any of this. The number of deaths involving Teslas could be 100% motorcycles, and the numbers could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times larger than they are. It doesn't matter, because in 1979, something came out called the Hurt Report. And the Hurt Report showed that something like 75-80% of motorcycle accidents and deaths were single vehicle accidents. And of those, the vast majority of them involve someone being drunk, high, or otherwise inebriated and speeding. After that, the second highest amount of motorcycle death accidents was motorcyclists turning left into an oncoming car. Not a car that didn't see them just turning into a car. And you think that's ridiculous. This happens a lot. This happens tons of times in cars, too. The amount of left turn accidents in cars is ridiculous. It's just one of the more survivable crashes in cars, so we don't make a big deal about it. But it turns out if you're going to die on a motorcycle, overwhelming numbers point to it being you that's going to kill you on a motorcycle. The idea that, oh, it's the crazy people you have to watch out for, whether you're in a car or on a motorcycle, just isn't true. You have to worry, statistically, you have to worry about yourself way more than anything else. It's just how the numbers are. I'm trying to remember now the website where I found all the Tesla deaths. But if you do a Google for it, Swigs, there are plenty of websites that are basically Tesla haters that are compiling all of this information. And they're like, well, look how many people are dying because of Teslas. And they're not putting the information in context that while 550 look like a lot of deaths, that's nothing. Something like 125 people die on the roads every day. This is like 500 Tesla deaths going back to 2019. It's just statistically not very much. It is below average, if anything. So, Phil was just wrong. But it's okay that he was wrong. Most people, because emotionally, they have many different truths going on, right? And right now, a big truth for a lot of people is that Tesla is evil. And you know what? If that's what you want to think, I don't fucking care. Go for it. It has nothing to do with me. You know, what car I'm driving is not part of my identity, my personality, my political stance. It's just not. Just like I'll drink Bud Light because I don't give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck before. I don't give a fuck after. Not even the motorcycle I ride is part of my identity. How many people do you know that have owned a fucking 600 inline super sport and a Goldwing and a 1959 two-stroke scooter and an e-bike and everything else in between?
Yeah, you see the long picture.
I'm not a Harley guy. I'm not in any. It's not the particular motorcycle is not part of my identity.
Yeah, it's like the motorcycle you own this week.
Right. So, you know, some people though, like one of their truths is that they are a Harley guy. Right.
Oh, this is going back all the way to like mid 2010s. Yeah, and it's like.
It's not a lot of deaths.
It's like 674 total, 54 autopilot deaths. That's autopilot, which is like the lane assist.
Yeah.
They're saying only 2 for full self-driving.
Yeah.
Over 8 or 9 years.
It's crazy low numbers. Crazy low numbers. If anything, they are safer. Now, the other thing, too, is that this video that Mark Rober put out has already been debunked like a bazillion times. Like, nobody can reproduce his results. Not to mention that this all stems from a Wile E. Coyote mural across the road. Between us, we must have something like 80 years of driving experience. Have any of us ever come across a Looney Tunes mural across the road?
I don't think so.
Nope.
And if you did, would you be relying on LiDAR to not hit it?
Well, I don't have a LiDAR, so.
Oh, so I guess you wouldn't be. Also, do you require, Swigs, do you on a daily basis use LiDAR to not hit motorcycles yourself?
No, I generally use my eyes.
There you go. Now, again, this is not to slam dunk on Cleveland Moto. Cleveland Moto is a better show than Noco Moto. I have to stress this. I am only pointing out how they were wrong because you should not be pointing the safety finger anywhere but to yourself. You are the one that's going to kill you. And there is just nothing else statistically that matters otherwise. It's just not like, they were saying, don't slow down in front of a Tesla. Part of your riding should just be to maintain a safety cushion in front or in back or whatever anyway. Like, what are you supposed to do with this information that a Tesla won't see you? Like, how are you supposed to incorporate this into your riding? Is there any way that this affects a person other than a motorcyclist is riding? They're already upset with Elon Musk. They see a Tesla, and it just hogs their attention, making them inattentionally blind to everything else around them. But is this in any way, is there any advantage to telling someone to look out for a Tesla? I don't think there is.
Well, I already know some people who stay in first gear on a motorcycle at a red light, and they watch behind them.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not brand specific to the car.
So other than just being more cautious and alert when a Tesla's coming up behind you, what can you do?
But how can you be more alert if you're giving extra attention to just that one car?
Right.
It's
going to distract you, yeah.
Well, this is like the classic motorcycle thing they teach you, right? You've got $5 of attention, right? Every car around you is taking up 25 cents. You're going to give $1.50 to that Tesla? No. You only have so much attention to spread around so much. And honestly, you can really only track 1.5 things at a time. That's why you have to scan your mirrors and your blind spots and your things around you. Like, oh, what's up in front of me? Now what's behind me? Now what are my blind spots? What's my speed? What's that vehicle's speed? And by the time you moved on to the next thing, you only half remember. That's why you're supposed to scan your operations.
Well, yeah, it's sort of like the whole study that there's been tons of studies done on multitasking. And essentially, multitasking does not exist.
Right.
All you can do is rapidly switch between individual tasks and monitoring individual things.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really do anything unless it's completely automatic, like playing guitar and singing at the same time once you've built up all the muscle memory, or like walking and talking at the same time. These are things you can only do when they're really embedded, but actual multitasking is not a thing.
Right.
Yeah. The average person can hold 7 plus or minus 2 things in their mind at once, like just what's in their short-term memory.
Well, it's more, I think what you're talking about is you can track about 7 things at the same time.
Right.
You've got 7 placeholders, right?
Yeah.
You can have 7 threads, but they're not all updating in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
And this fits what you've been saying for ages, is like, the guy who's just like, oh, I had to lay it down, yeah. No, it was, if you laid it down, it's because something you did.
I could see that Tesla coming for me, so I had to lay her down. Mm-hmm. I could tell the LiDAR wasn't kicking in. I really don't want to be slam dunking on Cleveland Moto because they are so accurate about so many things. The amount of knowledge they have between them is staggering. They just emotionally went somewhere. And because I have fewer definitions of truth, it really twerked me. And I just don't think that we say it enough. Oh my God. My son's calling me. That's not going to happen. We all have, there's a motorcycle zeitgeist, right? And, within, loud pipes save lives. Within, it's the crazy cagers you got to watch out for. Motorcyclists are way better road users than car users. I had to lay her down. All of these things that are sort of in there.
I would also
we don't
posit-
say enough that they're just not true. Point
Yeah.
the finger at yourself.
I would also posit I mean, yes, there are like freak accidents and things that happen so quickly that they're totally out of your control. But I would imagine of the people who do get hit by cars, there's probably a significant proportion of them, of the people who have been killed, where they weren't technically at fault, where they probably rode in a way that it was probably about a matter of time before they got themselves killed. In that, I mean, how many times do you just
Sure,
regularly...
but you can't measure that.
Yeah, it's
So-
more theoretical, but yeah, like, I mean, how many times? I would say that from the perspective of like, we've all had some sort of near miss with a car, or if we hadn't deviated our course, we would have got hit by a car. But I think though the people who can see that are also the people who are probably more reasonable and not going to get into accidents by themselves. So you could probably even skew the numbers over a little bit more.
Yeah. And again, this is really my thing. Like, there's, as I said, the zeitgeist. There's a bazillion things sort of within motorcycling that go around, and people believe weird things about riding. This one little like wave we're riding of Tesla hate is whatever. It's just another thing, you know. Is it going to make a difference? Is even one person going to crash and die because they're worried about Teslas and their LiDAR? Probably not. This is like my personal thing here. You know, that's all.
Yeah.
I
what
can't
can we do?
quite let it go. Well, again, you
Yeah.
just point the finger at yourself.
Mhm.
That's it. That is it. Hold yourself responsible. You get on the bike. So let's pretend that Teslas are statistically dangerous. There's still no course of action. You don't know which ones are safe, which ones are dangerous, which ones are in self-driving, which ones are being driven by people. Let's not forget that even the ones that are in self-driving, lane assist, whatever, there's still a person who's looking at the road with a brake lever by their foot.
Mm-hmm.
That's still there. So the Tesla system has to fail, and the person has to not brake to hit you. Like, it's whatever.
Be the master of your own destiny.
Be the master of your own destiny. The thing is that there's just, I don't see any action you can take based on this information, even if it was true. What would it be? I don't know. I can't think of anything. Because again, you can't let one car hog all your attention.
Yeah, if there was a zombie apocalypse or a robot apocalypse, and they were all coming to run you off your motorcycle, you should be riding just as defensively.
Well, I think that might change the game a little bit, but yeah. I think we're going in circles now. Should
We
move
are.
on?
We are. We're going to move on. Yeah, I said my piece. That's it. Again, everyone, like, cut this episode off halfway and just watch Cleveland Moto. It's a better show. There we go. All right.
Peter,
So now,
what is truth?
what is true? Mike, truth is quality.
No. That's a Zen in the art of motorcycle.
You did not
maintenance
expect
joke.
me to say that. All right. Okay, so now let's do best worst bike in the world this week. What are we saying?
Was it?
All right, so this is the segment where Swigs and I have each chosen a motorcycle. We don't know what each other have chosen. It's always a surprise. One is going to be the best bike in the world this week, and one is going to be the worst. If you have any problems with what we have chosen, if you have insights, if we get some facts wrong, Mike, where do they send that information?
They should pour themselves another Mai Tai. And, is my microphone out again?
Yes, it is.
God damn it.
Swigs, where do they send the information?
To contact at nokomotopodcast.com.
Okay. Now, Swigs, you have probably best bike in the world this week.
I do.
Yes. Mike, try pulling the microphone out, disconnecting the XLR, and then plugging it back in.
I've not been touching this thing.
I know, but
Also,
just
the
try
cooler's
it.
sitting on it.
The cooler's not doing it.
It's not on my end of the thing.
Huh. All right. We'll fuck with it some more in a minute. All right, Swigs, are you ready to reveal the best bike in the world this week?
I am.
All right, and the best bike in the world this week is?
The 2024 and onwards Triumph Daytona 660.
Go on about it. I'll fix this cooler.
Jesus. All right. So, the Daytona 660. This is essentially the motor that they made for the new Tridents, and the whatever the fuck they called it. This is pure chaos. And basically, they brought back the Daytona, but not as a track-focused bike, as an actual street-focused bike. This is a fucking disaster, Jesus Christ. I know. Yes, as a street-focused bike. So it's not the crazy fucking... it's not the crazy 130 horsepower motorcycle that it was before. Right. It's now down to 95 horsepower, and it's 50 foot-pounds of torque in that same package. It looks fantastic, and more crucially is the maintenance interval and the price. Because this bike, which is essentially similar to kind of, an old Honda F4i or even the newer CBR 650R. This bike is $9,200, brand new.
92. Hold on. $9,200. Bring up a picture here, Swigs. What do you?
One sec. We're in this phase of just fucking everything breaking, including my mouse right now.
Oh my god.
I'll do it on my phone. Yeah, so give me it
It's
Goddamn.
fine.
Okay, so
Just give us specs.
Yeah.
We're good.
So again, 95 horsepower. It's 50 foot-pounds of torque. It's a relaxed kind of ride, very similar to like an F4i or a CBR 650R. $9,200. Even if you go and get the OEM sliders, frame sliders for the bike, you're basically out the door for under $10,000.
And what's the horsepower again?
95. So as much as you will ever use on
And what's
the
torque?
50 foot-pounds.
Okay, 50 is fine. I mean, we're still talking more than a 600. 600s, until everybody killed their 600s, we're getting up into about 44. There might have been one that had 45. Like, for example, Mike, I would guess that your 650 is probably dealing with 38 foot-pounds of torque.
I don't remember exactly. I think it's like, I want to say it's 40.
It could be as much as 40. I can't believe your mic is still not fucking working. This is such a fucking disaster. Whatever. It's a shit show. It's got to be fine. We're not stopping. I tried. I disconnected and reconnected every cable from your microphone to there. I don't know what to tell you. Other than that might be the shitty microphone, but I don't think it is.
Unless you have another microphone.
Does it have any stickers on it?
I don't see any.
Now it's working.
No, that's just.
Oh, that's off the... Okay.
Okay.
40,
Well-
40.9.
Okay, so Mike, whenever you want to speak, you're just going to have to shout at Swig's microphone.
All right.
Like, that's it, okay?
All right. Yeah. So this bike also comes with. I don't know if I've ever seen this before on any kind of non-super ridiculous adventure touring bike. This bike has a 10,000 mile oil change interval.
Nice. Okay, so we're talking about, like, yeah, when you said F4i, you really mean that. Okay, this is basically an F4i with one cylinder less.
Essentially, yeah. Now, it's doing all of this while being the same price as an R7, which has 25 less horsepower, and it's about $2,500 cheaper than an R9, which has maybe 15 more horsepower.
What's the red line on this thing?
12,500 RPM.
Okay. Now, is this base? So this is basically just a Trident with.
This is a Triumph. This is like the Trident 660 with basically a full fairing, a slightly more aggressive riding position, and it's got the motor's tuned up another 25 horsepower.
Right, that's what I was going to say, because I thought the Trident was less power.
It is.
But, I mean, still, though, that's a great way to go because, again, no lack of power anywhere with 95. You know, it's not going to rocket right from a red light the way that, you know, a leader bike would. But still at 55, you're doing good there. I would say, let me think. If it's got a 10,000 mile oil change interval, what must the oil change interval be on the Trident?
That's what I was about to ask. Is Triumph known for these long service
No,
intervals?
they are not.
This is just unique to the Daytona.
Well, in general, service intervals have been getting longer and longer and longer as oils have gotten better, as tolerances have gotten better. You know, a reason you would want to change, you know, they used to say like, oh, you got to change your car's oil every 3,000 miles, right? This hasn't been true since like the early 90s. But what is sorry, the noise just changed when you did that. What is a weird thing is that you would think that getting more performance out of these engines these days would get you to have to change the oil and service things more often. The opposite is true, right? So piston rings are made a lot better than they used to be, and just machining and just general quality and precision of how engines is made has gone up across the board, whether it's made in China, Mexico, Thailand, or the United States.
Yeah, the alloys in use.
Well, the wear is better. There's like cylinder linings that are better, but the actual piston rings are so much better, and the oil is better. So you get less things like blow by, right? So when your pistons are going up and down, right, it gets to the top, boom, explosion, comes down. Well, it comes down with a lot of fucking force, obviously, right? Especially in a big horsepower motor, but a small amount of exhaust does make it past the rings. and then your oil's contaminated with carbon, right? Now, if you had like a fucking Ford Edsel, right? There was blow by like fucking crazy, because even when the engine was fucking new, shit was coming by there. As the engine gets older and the rings get worn, you get a lot more blow by, right?
Yeah, and the idea of engine break-in is less of a thing than it used to be.
Also, the oil, right, is allowing thinner and thinner gaps between the piston and the cylinder wall, which helps. But also, there's metal shavings that get in your fucking oil, right? Metal's rubbing on metal in your engine. Not all the time, under ideal circumstances, it would never happen, but it happens a little bit, right? When a piston goes up and down, the conrod is moving left to right, and the piston wants to rub and make that cylinder oval, right? But now the tolerances are so tight, the amount they rock back and forth is less and less and less than it was. So, you can imagine a piston going up a cylinder at an angle. It's going to try to grind metal away, right? So you get metal shavings in your oil. And not just from the piston rings on the side of the cylinder, from all kinds of different fucking parts of your engine, right? So it's not just that. It's so metal shavings, blow by, all kinds of different fucking things contaminate your oil. So naturally, as time goes on, maintenance intervals, oil change intervals get longer and longer and longer. And it's just kind of the way of the world. And every once in a while I check in and Swigs reports like, oh, this thing's got a 10,000 mile oil change interval. And I'm like, holy fuck. Like everything I own is still like 3,000 miles legitimately, because I own a bunch of rusty old shit. Besides the fucking gyro scooter, everything I own is from the 50s or the 70s, pretty much. So
yeah, my only new bike, the Royal Enfield, is like, I want to say it's between 5,000 and 6,000 miles,
which is respectable. That's not the tightest engine in the world, but it's fine. It's fine. You go by what the manufacturer says and you're going to be all right. So again, 10,000 miles, and, this is Triumph. They know that not everyone's going to do perfect oil changes, so you're probably good till 12, truth be told, but I would still change it at 10. I mean, how many people, at 10,000 miles, a lot of people on an aggressive bike like that, it's going to take them like 8 years to put 10,000 miles on the bike. There's a lot of people that legitimately are just going to need to change their oil before they have to, because their oil's getting kind of old.
Yeah. So essentially you will never hit a mileage limit on this. The oil will basically always age out before you hit the mileage.
Well, it probably wouldn't for us, but for other people, I could see this happen. Yeah, for a lot of more casual riders. Oh, I kind of like that red color. It's a little like, remember the last Ducati Super Sport? It's got a little bit of that going on.
Yeah, this is the only... I mean, I know that you might pay a bit more for, like, the Kawasaki Racing Team Green, but, like, this is the only one where I haven't seen a lot of bikes where they just, for some reason, charge $125 more for the red.
Who knows? This is weirdly a Daytona's. I've always kind of liked Daytona's in white and silver.
Yeah.
I know last episode we were banging on about boring fucking colors, but this is a rare bike that I think does look pretty good. There's one thing about this bike that's not great. And it's the same problem that the CBR 650 has. The tail's too small. I can't get over it that a sport bike like this should have a big old fat ass.
Unfortunately, that is just the fashion, and we kind
know.
of have to come to terms with that. But
We were talking about like custom liveries and decal kits and things a couple weeks ago, Swigs. Is there a real strong reason that sport bikes couldn't come with like an aftermarket subframe?
I think it would depend how it would affect like your battery box, and then I mean you've got to kind of do all the lights and everything again, so it'd have to be essentially it would be like a tail tidy kit that just came with a full subframe, I guess.
Yeah.
The biggest thing would be cost, but
I guess nothing's stopping anyone from doing it. I mean,
Well, besides the bodywork fitting together or not, but yeah, if you could just get a nice big 90s fat ass tail on this thing, then we'd be somewhere. I just don't understand these kinds of bikes getting this super duper tiny rear seat, because like if nothing else, like what chick wants to get on that seat behind you? There's nothing there, right?
yeah, or you can't haul shit with it either.
Like Swigs, bring up a picture of like a second gen R1 with a dual seat, right? That looks like a much like cooler, more comfortable place to be. Did you find one yet?
yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, this won't make any difference to viewers, but like, yeah, see?
Yeah.
That's a fucking throne. Look at that.
Yeah, compared to the Daytona, yeah. I mean, my Firebolt has a seat that size, and I thought that was tiny.
Right. So, that is my only complaint. But otherwise, Swigs, you are fucking correct. That this 660 is kind of a winner. If I was in the brand new super sport market, I would be thinking about this. This is spiritually very similar to an F4i.
Yeah, and if you were kind of looking at older bikes, but you like say you were a newish rider, you're kind of picking up your second bike. You know you want a sport bike, and you're kind of like, well, I want something with ABS and a bit more power, and you're kind of looking at, you're looking at some different super sports or like a triple or whatever, and you're kind of looking like, oh, this is 4,000, this is 5,000. And, it's several years old, and you're like, am I willing to pay, like, a couple $1,000s extra to get a brand new bike with a warranty that I know everything is good from the get-go? Like, it's now I think this is a bike that's actually at a price where this is cheap enough for what it offers, that it actually competes with the used market. Or at least the top end of the used market for this kind of bike.
I agree. This is good shit. All right.
There is something nice about owning a new bike. I can say for the first time in my life ever.
I think isn't that the only new vehicle you've ever bought?
My Hyundai was new. That's it.
Oh, right. Okay, let's move on to worst bike in the world this week. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. And the worst bike in the world this week is the Kawasaki ZZR 1200. Now, I bring this up because a listener, a late night.
Well, you said the ZZR 1200?
Yes.
Kawasaki?
Yes.
Those don't go together in my brain. Oh, okay.
So there's a very weird thing that happened in the middle of the Speed Wars. So the a listener was late night drunk texting us, Just go ahead and fucking move it violently, Mike. Just fucking make it happen and get it over with.
Because it just turned itself on for no good reason. But now I have a voice again, so okay.
Until it goes off again. But we'll just roll with it. It's okay.
So what year is the ZZR? Or what year range?
Swigs will bring that up. But so this is one of those things where I can't talk about this bike without talking about another bike. Right?
So for the non-Europeans, this is the ZX12C.
Right, the ZX12C. So, this bike is both awesome and not awesome at the same time. So there's sort of a version of this bike that if I had best bike in the world this week, I would have chosen the ZX12R as the best bike in the world this week. But because I had worst bike this week, I had to go with the ZX12C as the worst. Because Kawasaki did this bizarre thing, right? So this existed, I think, just after the Hayabusa, or just before, around Hayabusa time, around Honda Blackbird times, right? But curiously, before the ZX10R.
Oh, those pictures. That's so beautifully green.
Before the ZX10R. Just before the leader bike. The R1 existed at this time, but Kawasaki was still rocking the ZX9R as their homologated race bike. And Honda was still rocking, I think, the 954 at this time, but it could have been the 929. It was one of those two, right? So this is kind of just before the leader bike era as we know it, right? Kawasaki went, fuck it. Let's do a 1200 inline 4. And instead of having this inline 4 1200 be the fastest bike in the world, this was really just faster than 900 inline 4s. And so there's the touring version, the ZX12C, and then there was the full-on sport, race ready kind of bike, right? Which was the ZX12R. The ZX12R is just a bonkers machine. It is just, imagine an R1, but 200 cc's more for really no good fucking reason. And it didn't even make that much more power. I want to say these are something like 140 horsepower. Something like that. I mean, which is still big, ridiculous power. Don't get me wrong. Right? But the ZX12R is like the full-on super bike. The ZX12C is a ZX12R, but milder for no real benefits. It's really not much more comfortable. It doesn't really have any more storage. It chops off a little bit of power, but not enough for that much more range or fuel efficiency or whatever. And nobody bought it. Nobody gave a shit. I saw a few ZX12Rs in the wild back in the day. I haven't seen one for a long time. I mean, the ZX14 just really did eclipse it.
You think that was in Japan or here?
This was for sale here.
For here. Like you're talking about seeing them in the States.
Yes.
Okay.
But the ZX12C is a lot more like the ZZR 1100 was. Just kind of bumped up a little bit, and it's not the iconic look of the... Again, here's the big problem with the ZX12C. The ZX12C should have been the new Concourse. Right? Just like they made the ZX14, and then they made the Concourse with the ZX14 motor, right? This should have been the new concourse, but for some reason, no. They just made this fucking weird, bulbous, like crazy headlights. And there are things to like about it, but for all of its like smoothed out styling, for all of its, larger weight, for its bigger tank and all these things, it's still not a real great tourer. So what is it, right? Our listener, late night drunk, texted us to ask, how come this bike never gets brought up in the Speed Wars? Because the ZX12R exists, which is the much more like street cred version of this, right? I don't know I think the ZX12C did have a ram air system, but it's really hidden. On the ZX12R, it's kind of out there and really obvious. It's again, if you're gonna go for one of these bikes, honestly, I think the ZX11 is cooler, just for it's a lot more 90s. I think the I don't know. Like I said, if you're bringing up that picture of someone riding it, Swigs, like it's still pretty fucking aggressive.
Yeah,
that's
really raked out.
No, it's got a really short rake, but you're leaned over it. Mm-hmm. Like it's not. In what universe would you get this instead of a Hayabusa, right? In what universe does this offer anything unique? I don't think it does offer anything unique. And
for its day, was it cheaper than a Hayabusa? Was it a...
I don't know the prices. All I can tell you is that it's the back half of it looks just like a ZX11. But on the front half, they just updated the styling, and it's got a new engine, which is bigger. But it's just not that much more. And again, everyone that's riding this kind of bike at this time is getting it for bragging rights. They're not getting these things for touring, right?
Well, depending if we want to trust Google's AI, this was $10,500 in 2001.
That was pretty pricey in 2001.
And it was only marginally cheaper than the ZX12R.
Yeah, in what universe would you not just get the ZX12R? I don't know. There's not a whole lot to my argument other than why would you save like $800 to get this milquetoast version of basically the biggest displacement bike? Well, the Busa was this year as well, 2001. Was the Busa 02, 99? It was somewhere right around there. I thought the Hayabusa was like 2001, 2002.
99.
99. Okay, so the Hayabusa did exist. So obviously this is just... Well, again, there you go. Again, I didn't say this point to begin with. This is just a reaction to the Hayabusa. This is, well, we've got this ZX12R. I guess we have to make something that mirrors, right? Because the bike market was so strong in these years. Every manufacturer had something that was a direct equivalent or competitor to, everyone else in the big four at this time. Every Japanese make, their lineups were just packed with so many different models, and they all had an equivalent model to each other.
Have you guys ever talked about the Kill Bill bike on here?
Does your phone have a headphone jack on it?
No, it's just the Apple thing.
God damn it. I want to ground out this fucking lead so that we can get this noise to go away.
Yeah, that noise is bothering me too, but I don't know what to do.
Well, you could go
Just close the laptop.
Unplug it at the board.
Okay, I'll do that. And just let's finish this segment, then I'll do that.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
but the Kill Bill bike. So Kill Bill was what?
The Kill Bill
2003,
bike
2004.
is a Ninja 300.
Yeah. So why wasn't it this bike? Why was it a Ninja 300 and not?
Because Uma Thurman had to ride it.
Oh, okay, all right. Because it's tiny enough for her.
Well, there were probably many reasons. One, yeah, she had to look somewhat normal on it. Two, the bike didn't need to go more than 23 miles an hour to be filmed. Three, it was brand new at the time. So I'm guessing Kawasaki was like, hey, if you want a free motorcycle for your film and some product placement money, this is the bike we'd rather promote right now.
And also, it was completely appropriate in its environment, being in downtown Tokyo. What else would you be? You wouldn't. It would be fucking insane to have a 1200cc super sport, like, or kind of super bike,
Hyper bike.
a Speed Wars bike in Tokyo. Like, that wouldn't happen. You're not even allowed to take motorcycles on the highway in Tokyo.
Yeah. So
Well, Tarantino has his reasons for doing everything.
I want to say also, this bike is really actually not a terrible bike. It's really worst bike in the world this week, not even just because of the ZX12R that exists as an alternative, but because of all the other Speed Wars bikes that are alternatives, right? So the CBR XX Super Blackbird is just a cooler looking, more iconic bike, right? The Hayabusa, it's the fucking Hayabusa, right? And take any of the super fast 900s, right? I mean, the ZX9R and ZX7R are such good looking bikes. So they've really come into their 80s and 90ness in their looks, and they are really beautiful today for that. Kawasaki paint schemes, let's not forget, were really falling off at this point. Like, if you just go back to 1998 and look at Kawasaki paint schemes, there's cool shit going on everywhere. There's all kinds of crazy graphics and the big fake scratches up the sides of shit and everything, right? We're just in flat colors here. It's not that great.
Well, here's a purple.
Was
That's
that
good.
factory? I don't know that that's purple rather than just a very bad picture of a blue bike.
That might be the case.
Yeah. I think these came in silver and blue and black, and that was kind of it. Well, there's a red one there. Maybe they came
That's
in red
custom.
too. Yeah. So it's just of all the Speed Wars bikes, this is kind of the front fender really says it all. Like, you wouldn't be surprised to see that fender on a Goldwing, right? On something that's supposed to be able to do like 160 miles an hour, like that fender, really? Like, the fender just looks safe, right?
I mean, I
And-
don't even think it just looks safe. I think it looks terrible. That's like the bowl cut of front fenders.
It's true. It's true, right? It's just in general, like, okay, a Speed Wars bike is cool because it's a Speed Wars bike, but this is the least cool of the Speed Wars bikes. We can agree on that, right?
I think so, yeah.
And just to drive it home, bring up its predecessor, Swigs, the ZX11, or the ZX1100 or ZZR 1100, because I don't know that there was even a difference between the full-on like sport or R version versus the ZZR. Yeah, right? Especially if you get the one in the paint scheme like I had. Yeah, right. Wouldn't you rather have that bike, Mike?
In the 90s, I would. Yeah.
You wouldn't rather have it today? I would, but
That's
okay.
fucking
You know,
awesome.
I actually go for the solid colors, except the green one. Like when you first brought up the 12R, The green one was like, it is the greenest motorcycle I've ever seen.
Well, that's
in my life.
Kawasaki green.
Yeah, I know.
You could get this
But
in Kawasaki
I've
green.
seen a lot of bikes in Kawasaki green, but that was the greenest motorcycle
Look
I
at
have
that.
ever laid my eyes
Yeah,
on.
the black, red, and purple with ZZR up this
Yeah,
side.
see,
Like,
these look to me like 90s jet skis, which I like in a way. I could see the appeal.
What about that one? That one's mostly a solid color. Yeah, what's wrong with that, Mike?
It's great. I love it.
There's a solid color. Yeah, they did these in solid red and solid black.
Every single one of these paint schemes is a winner.
I know. 90s Kawasaki is fucking awesome. 80s and 90s Kawasaki. We might have to do an episode on what the best decade of styling and paint schemes, or just paint schemes, is for every manufacturer. For Kawasaki, I think it's the 90s, because when you go to like 1991 on Kawasaki, like, holy shit, things get fucking awesome. Especially in the stuff they did
91
with
was a
the
good year for textiles anyway.
the green textile. We're talking about paint, Mike.
Yeah.
Green, white, and purple. When they put those three colors together, Kawasaki, oh my gosh.
It's like when the Italians discovered cheese and tomatoes as a combo. It's
like look up Swigs, look up 1995. No, 19 yeah, let's go 1995 ZX 9R. I think they were making the 9R by 95. Yeah. Right. How fucking cool is that?
yeah, so that's the
The blue, green, and white on that one.
I don't know if they call this if this is like the original Kawasaki racing team, but it's generally kind of like that. I think today it's more like green, black, like black and white and green.
Yeah.
But this is kind of this is like the full on like Ninja Turtle.
Yes.
This hurts my brain to look at. I love it. I had a Trapper Keeper that looked like that thing.
Yes. Yeah. It's very Trapper Keeper. It's awesome.
And not even anodized, the green painted rims. Like,
Yeah. It's good stuff. All right, Swigs. Bring up anything that you need to results-wise from Austin. I'm going to unplug that cable real quick, and let's get on to talking about Austin round of MotoGP, because you went.
I did. Yeah, just unplug the quarter inch on channel 4. All right, yeah, let's pull up the standings. I guess there we go. Perfect.
Oh, that's so much better.
So, I guess before we get to the race, should mention, yeah, so basically me and so our dad and I went down to MotoGP. We trailered down the CB750 and the Italjet Dragster.
The Italjet must have been the belle of the ball.
It absolutely was.
It must have been.
Wait. Tell me.
Even Dad had to acknowledge the Dragster got more attention than his pristine 77
CB750 single overhead cam.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jonathan, please tell me you took it out on the track.
No, I did not. But I did take it around the campsite quite a few times.
Oh, yeah.
And
you'd
I
have to.
drove like an asshole the whole time. And everybody was. I could have killed a baby with this thing. And people would have just been like, what are you gonna do?
How
You know?
many people knew what it was?
Probably like 1 in 20,
Okay.
if even that.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
still, though, that's way above average.
There was one group of people who did know what it was when I was talking to them on Friday night, and then when I said and they were like, "Well, what did you bring down?" It's like, I brought an Italjet Dragster 180, and they're like, show me right now.
Yeah, Chinese fire drill.
Yeah, and we did start it up at like 11:30 at night in the campground and ripped it. No, well, nobody complained, but I think everybody was there looking at it. No, it was great.
I mean, the noise it makes, people must have assumed it was some old, like, GP track bike.
From a distance, and you know, the greatest thing about it was that it turns out, you know, because you basically just attract a bunch of old dudes and maybe a hand, you know, one or two younger guys when you bring out a CB750. And but the Italjet Dragster only attracts people who kind of know what they're talking about and people who you would want to talk about bikes with.
Right.
Because first they just sit and they're like, this is kind of fucking crazy. We got a trellis frame. We got this big two-stroke
But
pipe.
if you're not familiar with it, the more you look at it, the more you're like, wait a minute. This isn't the way it's supposed to be? Wait, this isn't the way it's supposed to be?
Yeah. And I probably spoke to I talked to 5 or 6 people about it. And they were looking at it and they're like, well, what's this little piston? What's this front suspension, you know, shock doing here? And it's like, well, it's got to be there because it's hub center steering. And then they like look around at the front and they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because as you look at it more and more, you just discover more and more weird things about it.
Yeah, because there's not just one thing that comes out to the front. There's 2 weird things that come out to the front wheel, both on the same side. And one of them is purely for suspension and one of them is for steering. But it's not immediately obvious that that's what they're for. And
yeah. And everybody walks away and they're just like, that's pretty cool. Like, even if they didn't know what it was, they're like, that's pretty awesome. And then once you start it up, they're just like, this is a scooter? What?
Yeah. This approaches 90 miles an hour.
Yeah. Well, that was great. There was one guy who we were talking to, he's like, oh, so you guys didn't ride down, you trailered it? It's like, okay. And then they were looking at the CB750. It's like, I guess that you could make it on that. It's like, but I don't think that scooter could keep up. It's like, oh, yes, it can.
Oh, yes, it can.
And then they look again. It's like, wait a minute. What's going on here? No, yeah.
I think you should do the scooter cannon.
The dragster, the thing, so like...
It would blow up on like mile 300. No.
But essentially, you know, W650 or, you know, CB750 or any kind of old bike, you do kind of get in that situation where it's like, okay, how many conversations do I want to have about this bike, and how do I cut a conversation short? With the dragster, it only attracts the people you want to talk to.
Well, right, because the coolest thing about it isn't that it's a 182 stroke. It's all the things on it that are just done not normal for not normal's sake. And you have to have a little bit of an engineering mind to appreciate that someone took all these non-mainstream ways to accomplish functionality on a motorcycle and put it into one production vehicle. No matter how stupid or expensive or, it. And so there's a part of you that one understands that there's much more than one way to skin a cat around everything on a motorcycle. 2, knows what a lot of those are. 3, goes, wait, and all of this actually works? Right? Yeah. And you own it and you brought it here? Right? Like, it's... So... your average Harley guy, first of all, isn't going to care because it's a scooter. But let's say it's a Harley mechanic who is just about ready to fucking shoot himself because he just can't see another boring ass fucking tractor motor come through his shop, right? There's a fair amount of those dudes that just are like, oh, it's front center steer, whatever. No. Like, they might get more excited about a Honda Magna than they would this weird scooter. And there are people that would just write it off because it's CVT. They go, oh, it's automatic, and just it doesn't matter how cool the rest of it is, walk away. So only these people that, again, understand engineering trade-offs are the ones that are going to stick around for more than 90 seconds. Or I suppose I'll bet you ran into this, though. Some dude that doesn't know what he's looking at, but his buddy right next to him started getting really excited. So that guy got excited.
That did happen a couple times.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. It's infectious. It's just great being around that thing because if someone doesn't know everything about it, the conversation around that motorcycle, someone goes, wait, what? About every 45 seconds for a solid 15 minutes. Just every time, because it's so fucking weird.
Yeah. There was a great moment when we got there, because we got there in the rain. And I am so glad we got that starter fixed before we went down there. Because if we hadn't, I don't know if I ever would have got this thing started. I was kind of hoping to be like talking to somebody like while we were there. It's like, hey, do you want to see a resurrection? It's like, here's an old... Because we came down in the rain, and obviously like the carb wasn't tuned, the idle wasn't tuned for that
for
altitude.
sea level, basically.
Yeah. And it just had it has a little pod filter on the carburetor, so like it was just sucking in and just had to spit out a ton of water before anything came out. And I had to just hammer that starter forever with the fuel off just to get everything through it.
Oh,
and then
Junkie will tell you, when we showed up to Junkie's house in California, we had trailered the Vespa something like 1,700 miles. And I hadn't kicked it over in anger. We get into Junkie's driveway, and I'm like, oh no, this Vespa will start right the fuck up. And so I kick it, and from the very first kick, I was like, oh, I smell gas. It's flooded. And, Vespas don't travel well. So I thought, oh, I just need to dry the plug off. So, just, pull the side cover off. I get the spark plug out, and what does it take to get the spark plug out? 50 seconds, right? Less than a minute, spark plugs out. And I just gave it a kick. And no joke, fuel and two-stroke shot 4 feet out of that bike.
yeah.
And I must have kicked it 15 times until it all came out. No fucking joke. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I was imagining that would happen to the dragster.
Well, I just turned the fuel off and just ran the starter until it kicked up and then turned the fuel back on. But
okay.
It was probably a solid minute of just running that starter, being I know it's going to go. Eventually it's going to go. And then I just covered 4 RVs, just the cloud of two-stroke smoke
that
my
came
God,
off. It must have been glorious.
Because it was kind of damp and humid, and it was 60 degrees out, so just the cloud I just fumigated half the campsite.
I approve. No mosquito problems that weekend.
Yeah. And, there were other people who were kind of sitting around there and they're like, what's this little scooter thing do? And he's like, this thing's not gonna start. And then it fires up and it shoots this big cloud of two-stroke. And I take off and it's just okay, all right, I see what's going on here.
Yeah,
it was great.
I am really sad when Pete and I were.
Your mic's dead again, I'm sure. What? Talk into your mic again one more time.
No, it's
it's fucking dead.
It's dead. I don't touch the thing, but no. When we were on our scooter trip and my rear tire blew and Swiggy went to get a toolkit.
Right.
And those people came up, we just happened to be at this gas station where a bunch of car and motorcycle people were gathering. Because it was a really nice riding day. And these people walk up to us and they start they start talking to us about our Vespas because we had a new and a classic. Well, I had a Stella, you had a Vespa. And And they're just, they're just gushing over our scooters. And we start trying to tell them, oh man, our friend just left on the coolest scooter you'll ever see. And they left before he got back, but I was like, but after it was all done, I was like, this was too much for those people. They would not have handled it.
So, all right, so Swigs, going down to Coda this year, some of our listeners will have seen the race, some of them won't. We'll talk about some race results or whatever, but the experience of going down there, just from watching the feed, I was like, ooh, they finished the roller coaster. The go-kart track looks bigger, like just the aerial shots of the place. Because we've been going now for like off and on, like going about half every other year for like 8 years, something like that,
yeah.
And every year they're adding to the complex a little bit more. I mean, it really is a world-class facility. Like, it looks new. Every year I go, I'm amazed that it still looks brand fucking new. Right? Like, you go to the Speedway at Indianapolis, where they do the 500, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it's a little bit like the Roman like Colosseum. There's like pieces of like concrete busted out of places and shit. Like, it's a little like, it was brutalist when it was built, and now it's like brutalist and decayed a bit. Like,
it's rusty now.
Yeah,
right.
So
it's but
there's a little bit
Coda
more.
is fucking world class.
Yeah, so the big things was they finished kind of like more like they finished the roller coaster up front.
Like, yeah, they've been working on an amusement park thing for a few years,
and there's a bit more of that around. And then besides that, they've built kind of a bit more of a complex at the top of the campground.
Oh, that was needed. Okay,
So there's even more showers there now.
this is all for Formula One. None of it's for GP.
Yeah. There are more actual like toilets instead of just
Porta potties.
It's porta potties all over the place. So there were at least 2 or 3 more proper like permanent structure bathrooms.
So you can semi-glamp even if you're just going on the bike.
Yeah. Well, they even put a little hand washing station outside the porta potties in the campground.
Nice. Okay, so
yeah. And then besides that, this is really more of a configuration thing, but they kind of opened up and rerouted some of the traffic to allow even more test riding space.
Nice.
So this year there was CF Moto, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Yamaha, Triumph. Did I say CF Moto?
Yeah. Honda.
Even Zero was doing some limited test rides.
Holy shit. Because last time we went 2 years ago, it was just Yamaha and CF Moto. That was it. Did you do any test rides?
I didn't do any this year. But
with all the... Okay.
The only other weird things... So there were some other bikes on show there as well this year. Buell had a little tent.
Nice.
With their bikes.
What bikes did they bring?
They brought the Hammerhead, their weird cruiser.
The Super Cruiser?
They brought a Super
Mike,
Cruiser.
You should buy a Super Cruiser. It's only $34,000. It's
And they brought the
when you put it that way.
They brought the 1190 SX as well.
Okay. Well, it's just the naked Hammerhead, but still cool.
And then obviously there was KTM, there was Husqvarna, there was Aprilia.
All the regular OEM displays, like the tents with just the consumer models and...
Yeah. MV Agusta had a tent.
Well,
whoa, that's not normal.
And they had their little they had their adventure bike and a Brutale.
Cool. Did
was Guzzi there?
They're like every other year. Like
I didn't go around turn 1, but I didn't see Moto Guzzi or
BMW.
no, I saw BMW. They were out
Okay.
front, but I think Ducati must have been up around turn 1 because I didn't see them this year.
Well, Ducati's been folding everything into Ducati Island for a few years.
Yeah,
So if you go all the way as close as you can to turn 1 in Ducati Island, that's where they've been tucking away their display.
yeah. I didn't go there this year. I didn't go that part.
Were there any shuttles around the place? Because that's something they could really do with.
Just between the gates.
The ones that go around. They need to do some like electric 14-seater golf cart shit to get people around the place a little bit more. But whatever. Okay.
I would say the only thing that really weirdly there was a Zin tent.
There are Zin tents everywhere now, and I am all about it. I love how fucked up Zin is. You weren't at the Greeley Stampede last year. Zin was everywhere. They were handing it out fucking free to everyone. At one point, I probably had like 6 Zin in my gums. It's ridiculous.
Is like vaping and Zin like the new Ford versus GM or Ford Chevy?
You know, so Zin is not a new idea. There was something almost exactly like Zin back in the day, and they were called Bandits. But Zin isn't like tobacco, right? It's got nicotine in it, but it's not actually tobacco. There used to be these, it was like dip, but it was in a pouch. Because, Zin's in a little pouch, right? But imagine actual chewing tobacco in a pouch.
Isn't that snooze?
No. Snooze are like nicotine lozenges.
Are we talking about like almost like a little tea bag full of tobacco?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And they were called Bandits. You never encountered Bandits like during high school, Mike?
Nope.
This was a really big thing when we were in high school because all the sports guys were doing Bandits. And the thing about Bandits was there was something supposedly about like the sort of filter like pouch that it was in that they said you could swallow it. So like the dudes on like the swim team and the football team would like put a Bandit in and just be swallowing their tobacco spit while they were like on the field or swimming in the pool. Like it was the ultimate like jock way to consume nicotine.
That sounds horrible.
I'm just telling you what happened. Okay? I wasn't much better. I was smoking fucking original recipe Turkish Golds and occasionally still buying snuff.
I remember your Turkish Golds.
Jeez.
Camel Turkish Golds.
Yeah. So the only
So back to Coda.
back to Dakota. The only thing I saw that what really kind of disappointed me was something I have said on previous episodes, which is all of the bikes they were displaying and all of the test bikes for riding, all the demo bikes.
Yeah.
It was a grayscale catastrophe. The colors were terrible. I mean, Suzuki had some nice bikes.
Well, Honda usually brings all their bikes in red for these things, do they not?
They brought like the CRFs that were all in red, but like even like the
like the Africa Twin was all black or whatever.
Oh, the Africa Twin they had in the standard colors because they actually sell that here. But like the new what's the 750, the like kind of adventure bike with the Hornet motor.
Oh, the Transalp.
Yeah, the Transalp was just like in a matte gray. Every Yamaha except for like one.
They normally bring the Yamahas all in blue.
Yeah, they were basically all in Yamaha blue, or they were blacked out. There was one. They did bring one Yamaha R1M that was in a really nice red and white paint scheme, but that was the only bike of actual color that they brought. Suzuki didn't do too bad. The CF Motos were all the same,
Yeah.
like weird turquoise color. Kawasaki did like
It's a Subaru turquoise that they do those CF motos in.
It is. Fun fact: on the first day, Kawasaki did bring the hybrid and the all electric bike, and then displayed them behind a parked Jeep. Nobody at Kawasaki is proud of the electric or the hybrid.
Well, I had a theory that they built them just to show them off. Like they built them just to go, look, we're doing the thing that we're supposed to do to be PC as an auto manufacturer.
Well, apparently the audience for that advertising was not MotoGP. Because,
well, that doesn't fucking surprise me.
No, but they were straight up hidden. Like, this was, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in a basement with no stairs. No staircase.
In a disused lavatory with a sign on the door that says, beware of the puma.
The leopard, yeah. But yeah, it was that sort of thing. They didn't give it. They were like, nobody wants to see this.
Did you ask them all about it?
No.
I wasn't there, Mike. I would have if I was there.
Well, all the reps were kind of staying away from there because it was like they put all the bikes they don't really want to talk about over there. Like they put the Ninja 500 over there, and some other weird bikes. But yeah, it was
Ninja 500. They don't have a Ninja 500 right now.
They do. It's ancient.
Wait, you're telling me they still sell was it EJ 500? There's no way they still sell a 500 Ninja.
Yes, they do.
Nope.
Will all be.
Also, one of the few
Wait,
bikes.
what's the MSRP on this thing? This is sub $6,000?
Yeah. This is ancient technology.
They never killed this bike?
Correct.
No, this isn't the old EJ5. This is a Ninja 400 twin that's been bumped up to 451. No, this is an expensive Ninja 400 versus a cheap. This is not the old Ninja 500. This is newer. This is the Ninja 400 twin that became a 500 technically.
Yeah. Well, outside of the Kawasaki racing
No, this
team,
is a great bike. This is I don't know why this bike was so much popular under the name Ninja 400 versus Ninja 500. But no, this is a fantastic motorcycle. It is a little small, like not in power, but like in stature. But no, this is a fantastic motorcycle. This is not.
This is quite a bit bigger than the Ninja 400 was. This isn't the same bodywork. But also this was like the most adventurous outside of the Kawasaki racing team colors that Kawasaki got.
I'm into it. We got some like bold flashes of color across. We've got something representing like resembling graphics. I'll take it.
Yeah, but I mean, this is kind of a pretty high bar as far as the event went for like bikes that they were realistically looking to sell and demo.
I could see the GP crowd not being excited about this because when you go down to Coda, it's the last place where leader bikes are still really fucking cool. There are dudes that will trailer their, 1000 Fireblades, their ZX-10Rs, their R1s that are 6-7 years old, whatever, and park them by their RVs and not fire them up all weekend. But they're like, check it out. I'm here with a 1 liter bike.
It's true.
Because they are just like, they're like, I am all about that 1 liter inline 4 life. I'm here at MotoGP watching 4-cylinder 1 liter bikes race. I own a 4-cylinder 1 liter bike. It's an uncompromised sport bike. There are probably some dudes that put on their leathers in their RVs and then are like, no, I'm not going to ride. But they put their leathers on and then take them off, like in the RV, right?
I will say,
there's a couple guys that put on their leathers to do test rides.
I tell you what, if you are looking for a place to have the inline 4s are dead conversation, go hang out at the Yamaha tent at MotoGP around the R9, and that's, and then you can keep walking, or if you want to troll them all, you can just walk by every 10 minutes and say, not over at the Kawasaki tent, it's not.
Yeah, it's the last holdout, I guess. But I mean, Honda still makes, it's,
and that was the other thing is basically like all of the reps at all of the tents were all really fucking apologetic to everybody about the fact that they all had parallel twins for sale. It was kind of like something they didn't really want to address. They were just like, I know it's only a twin, but it's okay. It's like 70 horsepower. It's pretty good.
It is not representative of the majority of the motorcycle buying market, but it is a very passionate section of the motorcycle market that shows up to MotoGP.
Yeah. Do we want to talk results?
Okay, so let's talk race results. So this weekend was still the okay. I'm glad that the big news was that Marc Marquez crashed at Coda. And I'm glad it happened. But it's for a really dumb, selfish reason. I was getting really tired because I try to watch all the practice and all the qualifying before I watch the races. And I don't know if I could have taken another session of these commentators talking about how Marquez was sweeping the entire season. We're only on the 3rd race. I was like, okay, yes, he has swept everything, but that's only been 2 weekends. Literally the shortest amount of time you could call it a sweep. Like, what are you talking about? I can't. And they say it like every 4 fucking minutes. Look at any practice, qualifying, race, sprint race, whatever, from Buriram through Argentina through like halfway through the GP race there. Well, Marquez is sweeping it. Can anyone stop Marquez's dominating sweeping performance? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God. We're not halfway through the season. He hasn't swept like 9 races. It's been 2.5 weekends he swept everything. Calm down.
Well, also on the other side now, we've got people saying, oh my God, Marc Marquez is his worst enemy. When's he going to stop crashing? Again, it's 1 result. And he's won the other 5.
Not to mention, crashing constantly was his whole strategy when he was arguably definitely at the top of his game.
Yeah, he did crash, like, he would
set the hottest lap and then keep pushing it until he crashed.
Yeah.
That was his whole thing.
Well, he crashed every weekend. There was that one year where he crashed every weekend, but didn't crash in a race until he won the entire thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of... Yeah. It's not a new thing to see Marc Marquez crash multiple times in a weekend.
Not at all.
We've seen him crash both bikes before the race.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Yeah.
Nobody knows. I think now with Alex Marquez up there and, seeing things kind of go back and forth with Martin and Bagnaia last year, somehow nobody has any sense of scale or ability to analyze a race anymore, or a series. And it's getting kind of ridiculous. One thing I will say, this year, way less Rossi representation in terms of gear, and now it's like 98% Marc Marquez.
Well, Rossi hasn't raced since you went to GP with us.
Yeah.
Well, no, he raced the year after that.
By gear, you mean like swags, like support groups?
Yeah,
Like t-shirts.
Okay.
hats, flags. I'll bet there were still a lot of campers with VR46 flags off of them.
There were a few, but
It's not the cult that it was.
oh yeah, when the first time we went, every other camper had a Valentino, had a VR46 flag coming off of it, and you saw one or two Marc Marquez ones. It's completely flipped now.
Yeah, well, it's like when it's just like when Michael Jordan left basketball. There was a good 8 years you could go to a Bulls game or watch a Bulls game or go to a Pacers game, and there were dudes in Jordan jerseys.
Yeah.
But, after a few years, you're like, well, I'll start wearing stuff for Bezecchi, or I'll maybe, this Jorge Martin guy looks pretty promising. It's weird. I kind of look at racing this way. It's absolutely fine to become a big fan and back the guys that are winning a lot. But something that I do enjoy about MotoGP fandom is that you have to also back the dude that represents your country or your region. And it doesn't matter what team they're riding for. And this is in stark contrast to people who are just like, well, I'm a Denver Broncos fan. Yeah, but the Denver Broncos have dudes from all over the fucking country, right? Your rider is just from where you're from. And there's nothing to change that, right? So if you're an American and you don't support Joe Roberts, you're just an asshole, right? Now, that also means that your heart's going to get broken most weekends. But when those wins do come, it's the greatest thing ever. You want to get a tattoo of the date of the race and Joe Roberts won this weekend or podiumed this weekend or what?
Yeah.
It's a thing. So it's whoever's backing the current champion, yes, the current champion always has the most fans, but they're fair weather fans. And
I think they've also
something about
he's also
Rossi
been chosen because basically all of South America is rooting for Marc Marquez.
Well, they also have a lot of Morbidelli fans down there because he's half Brazilian.
Yeah. Although, I mean, the crowd at MotoGP is going to be in Texas is probably going to be largely Hispanic. So that probably makes a big difference. So it's probably skewed.
There are a fair number of Hispanic guys down there now that you mention it, yeah. But I mean, they're from all over the country too. It's a big mix, but the MotoGP fandom, I would say, is still more than any other sport sort of nationally loyal, right? When you go, when you go, if you watch like the broadcasts of like the races in like Southeast Asia, these riders that don't commonly get a lot of results, but are from the area, like they'll finish like 7th place and do like a victory lap around the circuit, and people go fucking bananas. They're like, our guy finished top 10 at his home race. What? Like that, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, at Coda, if Joe Roberts podiumed, people would lose their fucking minds. It's nice to see, like, in a world where like the English national football team is like mostly dudes from Spain, right? Like, you know, in a like, it's just nice that there's still something sort of that pure where it doesn't matter like what bike they're riding. It's like, well, this is our dude. This is our default de facto dude. But to Jonathan's point, something that was different about Valentino Rossi is, geez, for how long's it been now since he's been racing? 5 years?
His last race, I want to say, was 2020 his last season?
It might have been 2019.
No, it was it was 2020 because Drew remember in 2020
Was it 2020 like the weird like double races season? Yeah. Did he race that year?
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, that's right, because that's the year he almost got fucking taken out.
Yeah, he almost got murked by Zarco's bike.
Oh, that was fucking crazy.
I think that was his last year, so 4 years ago.
4 years, okay. Yeah, there's going to be an obvious, you know, decline, but 4 years after he's finished, there are still some diehard Rossi guys. I mean, just in the commentary, you know, they were talking to Dak Shepard before the race, and he was going like, well, you know, I was a big valet guy, and I really, really hated Marquez, but to see him struggle for so many years and now get back on top, it's really hard not to root for the guy. And like, you know, it's an unpopular opinion with a lot of my friends, but like, what are you going to do? I love this story. But there's still like, yeah, there's going to be a drop off in the Valentino Rossi crowd, but of course there was going to be. But again, it's still just something that it's still there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, another really, really great thing about going to see MotoGP is, especially in Austin, you go there and you're still going to see number 69 jerseys and flags for Nicky Hayden. And you're still going to see, you know, I'll bet you probably still saw at least 5 people wearing Danny Petrosa stuff.
If I did, I didn't recognize at the time.
Well, you might have mistaken it for old Marquez stuff because he was so synonymous with Repsol Honda.
No, so here's the thing. All the Marquez stuff got swapped, all the Honda stuff got swapped out for Ducati.
Oh, they all bought new shit?
It wasn't just a whole bunch of people bringing their old Marquez, like, Honda HRC stuff. It was new Marquez Ducati. All of it.
Oh. That's interesting. Okay. All right.
I did not see a lot of Repsol.
So the majority of Repsol stuff probably would have been Danny Petrosa's stuff. Because Danny Petrosa had a fair number of fans. He
did, yeah. The one thing I will say...
I miss Danny Petrosa. I was just thinking about how Danny Petrosa, like, how many wins did he have? Like, didn't... Because they were saying Bagnaia got, like, his 60th win or something.
Danny Pedrosa didn't have a lot of wins.
Yes, he did. He was the most winning rider to never win a championship, and he had a long career.
I know he had. I know he had a shit ton of podiums.
Oh, I think his podiums were in like the 90s, but I think his wins were in like the 30s or 40s.
Oh yeah, across his whole career, yeah.
Yeah. That's a serious fucking number of wins.
It's true.
Whereas most GP riders will go their entire career with 5 or less wins. Like having like 38 wins or whatever he had is fucking unreal that he never won a championship.
That is true, yeah.
There were years Danny Petrosa came second in the points with more points than many people have won championships with, just because he was always finishing second to fucking Marc Marquez.
Yeah. That was a ridiculous like 3-year span of just utter absurdity.
Well, here's the question. Is Alex Marquez doomed now to become a Danny Petrosa?
Well, we'll see, because he's currently leading the championship.
Danny Petrosa has one of the greatest MotoGP careers of all fucking time. Like, he's literally in the MotoGP Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, Alex Marquez is leading the championship right now.
By 1 point.
Yeah, by 1 point. I did note. I did think it was kind of ridiculous going around with the merch tents.
Hold on, let's do a second round on that. Alex Marquez. Oh, we've lost the camera. Alex Marquez is leading the MotoGP championship right now.
Yeah.
So, Mike, to put this into perspective for you, when Alex Marquez came into MotoGP, it was, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 years after Mark came in. Mark might have already been in GP. I think, yeah, because Mark Marquez skipped Moto 2.
No, he didn't.
Wasn't he like the first guy to skip Moto 2?
No, I think Marquez did Moto 2. The guys who skipped Moto 2...
Quartararo skipped Moto 2.
Quartararo... yeah.
Jack Miller.
Quartararo, Jack Miller, Maverick Vinales.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Alex Marquez came into Moto 3, and I think Marc Marquez was already in GP. But Alex Marquez had a fucking crazy awesome year his first year in Moto 3. He and Jack Miller were on the same team and basically just traded who was first and second all fucking year on the Estrella Galicia Moto 3 team. This is historically a big Moto 2 and Moto 3 team. I mean, the two of them just fucking swept it. It was crazy. But then they both immediately moved up. Well, Jack Miller went straight to GP. Alex Marquez went to Moto 2. And he went to Moto 2 and his results just dropped off a cliff. But then somehow, like weirdly, he just put it together all of a sudden and won the Moto 2 championship back to back, which only he and Johan Zarco have ever done in the history of Grand Prix motorcycle racing. Won the intermediate class back to back. And then, so he got bumped up to GP. And then his results just fell off a cliff again. But then he and Mark were put on the same team. And everyone, so Alex Marquez's career has been plagued by this harsh accusation of nepotism and name recognition, struggling, then putting in really fucking hard fought results, then getting accused of being worthless, not deserving to be there, and nepotism again, and then fighting and finally putting in the results and whatever. So Alex Marquez kind of got to GP and people were like, well, all right, back-to-back champion. Okay. And then like
they
years
got screwed
of kind of nothing.
with Honda on his team.
Oh, yeah.
And then thrown around. And then he ended up on Gresini which I believe is the worst funded team in GP right now. And even last year got one win, but then otherwise like a completely unremarkable season. And now he's gotten second place 6 races in a row.
And as a result is leading the points. And there's a thing in MotoGP where they say if you can finish second every race, you'll win the fucking championship. Like, it's not about winning, it's about consistency.
Right.
So we're in another year where early in the season Alex is really fucking strong, and he's been strong early in the season before and then fallen off a cliff. But we've also seen in multiple seasons before, at least 3, every certain number of years, he does fucking put it together. And this does look like one of those years. If someone bet Alex Marquez to win this season, it's not an insane, stupid bet. Whereas there are years that is an insane, stupid bet. But also, Marc Marquez, who has been off his game, like, Marc Marquez has won 8 championships or 7.
6 GP, 1 Moto 2, 1 Moto 3. I want to say.
No, that's Valentino Rossi.
No, Valentino Rossi.
Valentino won 9.
total. Yeah, so Marc Marquez has 6 in MotoGP, 1 in Moto 2, 1 in Moto 3, so 8.
Is he at 8? Okay. So, Mark's whole reason for existing is to beat Valentino's number of world championships. It keeps him up at night. It is all that drives him. He might win 10 championships and just collapse dead the next day. Like, no one would be surprised. He might reveal that, like, he's been battling cancer, but all that has kept him going is getting to 10 championships. It would shock no one.
Whereas Alex is trying to win once.
Alex just wants his father's love.
Yeah.
Because all his father's love goes to Mark.
It's true.
Alex is racing for his parents to remember his birthday. Is what's happening. And it's just always been that way.
Yeah, that's about right.
God bless it. But, you know, if for me, if I was to say, like, which one would I rather have win, I think I'd rather have Alex win.
Yeah, that was one of the things, was that going around all the merch tents, you know, they always kind of pick out, like, who are the big riders this year. Can you grab me a beer? Thank you. And, you know, all of the shirts, because they were, like, printed back in November, all the shirts are, like, Marc Marquez, Bagnaia, Jorge Martin, and I think, like, Morbidelli or Bezzecchi. And it's like, Alex is now leading the championship, and he can't even sell a fucking t-shirt.
I know. Oh, I'll tell you, a really cool t-shirt to have. Like, if Alex wins the championship this year, like, what if all, like, 13 people that bought an Alex Marquez Repsol shirt, right, just to be like, this is how long I've been a fan, right?
Yeah.
You know, That's something else. Okay, so we talked about loyalties and racing and whatever. We have to talk about the heartbreaking Joe Roberts result.
That was possibly like the longest 30 minutes of my life. So,
Explain to Mike the tires dilemma. Just how this.
okay. So, like in early spring in Texas, especially around Austin, basically every day kind of starts off overcast, and then it gets like
Mike was there. He knows.
Yeah, it gets progressively drier. So but somehow
Mike was there for one of the worst rain days in the history of the circuit.
Yeah,
but
we almost got blown away.
But it somehow just like miraculously
tired,
dries up every race day.
Well, hold on. We rarely get to say this. It was a veritable easy apocalypse.
The easy puppies.
It was.
It was. Anyway, but basically every year we've gone previously, it's just like miraculously dried up during race time. But it kind of stayed out, like that kind of really humid, foggy, overcast, and like kind of raining a little bit.
It's so humid down there.
Yeah.
It is. It's basically tropical. Like there are like palm trees on the edge of Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's
Anyway.
humid everywhere. That's not a mile high.
Yeah. So anyway, it was it was a fairly wet Sunday, but it wasn't really wet. It was like right on the edge. And it would like it wouldn't even like really rain, but it would just kind of get like a little bit misty. You get like the tiniest drizzle. But you don't really know what's happening. And Moto 3 was a little bit wet, and then it really kind of started pouring down a little, not even really pouring down. It was really like right on the cusp. So there was a tire dilemma, and there was a chance for a big gamble because of how close it was. And in fact, where we were, it was actually better to be on racing slicks. But on the back half of the circuit, it was wet enough that you really had to have have rain tires.
Well, you know this from being there, Mike. Coda is really fucking long.
Yeah, yeah.
It's almost 2 miles around that circuit. Isn't it like 1.68 or something?
I think it's more than that. It's. I think it might be closer. I think it might be closer to 2. For like,
You know what? I think 1.68 is short, and that's the length of Laguna Seca. I think Coda might be 2.2.
it's a pretty long track.
Yeah, it's a long track. It's really fucking long around it.
But it's
there are like different and it's at different elevations. Like different parts of the track have their own weather systems.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, there was an opportunity to gamble, and basically everyone but I think 5 or 6 riders went with slicks thinking, I've got a shot here. And in Moto 2, you only get one bike. So if you pick the wrong tires, you don't have a second bike to go to that you
Holy shit. Circuit of the Americas is 3.4 miles.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really fucking long. If you notice, like this year's race was 20 laps when many circuits, many races on the circuit are anywhere. I'd say the average MotoGP number of laps is anywhere from 24 to 29 usually.
Something like that, yeah. Anyways, so Joe Roberts gambled, and he went with the slicks. And by the end of the first lap, he was about 40 seconds behind. By the end of the second lap, he was about a minute behind.
Oh, dear.
And then I think like 8 laps in, he was basically 3 minutes behind. And, when you go and watch a race, when you watch a race on TV and you see somebody's like 5 seconds ahead, you're like, oh my God, that's such a huge gap.
Yeah.
How's he ever going to recover from that? But when you watch in person, you know that it's just like, oh, when one guy hits the end of the straightaway, he makes one turn, and then he's kind of going into the next turn as the other guy finishes turning around at the end of the straightaway. When your guy is 30 seconds back and you see him coming through and you're like, oh, this is bad. And then you see him get lapped in the race. It's hard to watch. But
Well, we were talking earlier, Swigs, though, about how we respect the decision. Because
oh yeah, I
Joe
absolutely respect it.
Roberts missed the first race of the season and a lot of practice time and testing and things before the season because of injury.
And he's still injured. He's still recovering.
And he's still recovering.
So he qualified in 16th place, and he wasn't really going to be competitive. But I tell you what, if he had got the tire choice right and everybody else didn't, he would have made out like a bandit.
And the GP race was only 45 minutes later. Which sounds a little short. I remember it being like pretty much an hour between races last time I was there, but still, less than 1 hour later, dry tires were absolutely the choice.
Yeah, and at the part of the circuit that I was on, the difference between the beginning of Moto 2 and the beginning of Moto GP was completely imperceptible from the stands. It felt
it's right where we were sitting when you were there,
yeah,
Mike.
It felt exactly the same at the start of the two races. So I don't know what magic 8-ball they were using to gauge the conditions, but
So, Swigs, did you see? We got to change gears now a little bit. Going back to the Coda experience, did you watch or get anything from the new Junior Cup? And did they actually bring out the baggers?
I don't think they brought out the baggers. If they did, I didn't remember.
Well, it was hyped that that Moto America was going to bring the King of the Bagger series to Coda this year. And I never heard confirmation on whether or not that was actually going to happen.
I wasn't on the schedule.
Well, yeah, you would have known. It doesn't surprise me that they dropped it. I think it'd been a cool thing to show there. But remember, like 8 months ago, people were like, oh my God, there's going to be bagger racing in MotoGP. And the next week I was like, calm the fuck down. There's never going to be bagger racing in MotoGP. Like, that's just not going to be a thing ever. And we'll see if Moto America, but there was that new Junior Cup there, right?
There was. They did 2 races on Saturday. And it's kind of hard to tell. I will say the bikes are really cool. They're Kramers, and they're basically 350cc bikes with KTM motors in them.
All Kramers are cool.
And they're basically GP style bikes, and I think they make I think they might be
60 horsepower.
I think they're 5 horsepower less than a Moto 3 bike, and they might weigh 15 pounds more. But they're pretty close.
Yeah, I think a Moto 3 bike's around 65. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's it's really hard to tell. There were 2 guys who won the 2 races. Basically, Alessandro Di Mario and Bodie Page were kind of the 2 guys who traded first and second between the 2 races. I can't really say if they're going to be. The
question is, how many races are in this series? And we should also tell people, so for all the talent that's going into Moto 3 every year, these racers are picked from a number of race series that are basically by region of the world. So there's the Honda Asia Talent Cup. There's the Red Bull Rookies Cup, which is Europe. There's there's a couple more.
There's a British Talent Cup.
Yep, British and
And now I can't remember what the other one is. If there's a couple other ones, but now we have a North America Talent Cup.
right.
Yeah, and these are, I think, so they said there's going to be a minimum of 6 events this year.
And normally these riders have to be, was it like 14 is the age you can normally join, I think? They're
I
like
don't think it's
14 to 17 or 14 to 16.
I think it's like either 16 to 19 or 15 to 19, something like that is kind of usually where it's around.
I thought I thought the cutoff was like 18 or something, but maybe not. I don't know.
I can't remember entirely, but it is kind of. It's hard to tell where.
Well, what we do know is that if you win one of these, you can join Moto 3 at 16 instead of 17 if you win one of these.
I will say it's kind of fun because these are really kind of exhibition races, and then either you'll get to stay in it and try again to like get essentially drafted in the next year to a professional team, or you'll stay or you'll get booted.
I'm kind of hold on. I got a little beef here. You used to be able to watch all these races, or at least highlights of them, on the MotoGP app, the streaming app, and you have not been able to for like at least the last 4 years, maybe 5.
Mm-hmm.
I used to try to follow the Red Bull's Rookies Cup at least a little bit, and it's kind of bullshit. Some people just want like as much content as you can throw at them. I don't see the fucking harm. Like, they must still be televising these things somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Why can't we get it?
It's a little bit silly. We absolutely should.
Anyway,
But I mean, and you know, the races they're kind of fun to watch, and you never know where it's going to go. It's kind of more of like
well, it's great racing. It's just a little bit it's a little bit more chaotic starts.
Yeah.
And because it's not the top of the top, but you're still talking about talented fucking kids.
It is, but it's also sort of like how, you know, there's so many different filters to go through, right? And, you know, at their local track, each one of these kids is the absolute uncontested champion. And then you get into this, and 95% of the field is cut down and realize they aren't hot shit. Then that guy gets into the next level. He gets, and he has to get past that 95% filter. Then you get into Moto 3, there's another 95% filter. Moto 2, another 95%. And then you get to GP, and it's like, well, let's see where you get to. And we're talking about guys who are, you know, several of orders of magnitude away from getting in and really making a name for themselves.
It's the college basketball of motorcycle racing.
Yeah. So you're really just kind of watching it and thinking, is this kid going to make it? You know? Or not even thinking if somebody's going to make it, but just hoping that maybe one day you'll see his name in Moto 3 and be like, that's the guy, you know?
Yeah,
I saw him when he was in the
when you
Cup.
watch these races, you watch it with like a talent scout's eye is what you're doing.
Right, yeah.
And there's a lot of people who love college basketball, too.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
People who prefer college basketball.
There are people who prefer college basketball. You were absolutely correct, Mike, which is like, why not have this content available, right? Because you're going to get zero pushback from the racers and their parents. They'll be like, yes, give my kid camera time.
I think they should go even further because, like, you know, the Moto 3 and the Moto 2 guys, during their races, for no fucking reason that I can tell, they don't even get their numbers up on the tower. Why not? Put these kids' numbers up on the tower.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
Why not? Well, remember when we interviewed Rocco Landers?
Hmm.
Like before we even, we set up that interview way before we even got to Utah, and I remember like Rocco's dad was running all around the track trying to find Rocco, because Rocco was just like off on his dirt bike, just fucking around, being a fucking 12-year-old or whatever, or 14-year-old or however old he was. I think he was 14 at the time. Anyway, he was like, I'm sorry, he's a 14-year-old. He's just, and he's like won 2 races this weekend. Like he's already fucking like, oh, I came here and did what I'm going to do. But he was like, this is like Rocco's like first time being interviewed. And he was like, no, like sit up straight, pay attention. Because he was like, you've got to practice doing this. And then, at the time, sort of the only thing that sort of resembled what Swigs is talking about, this North America Talent Cup, was the Moto America Liquid Molly Junior Cup, was sort of the stand-in race series for this. So kids that got placed well enough in this could go up to the Red Bull's Rookies Cup in Europe, which Rocco Landers did, but COVID fucked that up for him. We could have seen Rocco Landers potentially in Moto 3, but the timing was unbelievably bad. Anyway, the other interesting thing about this is, on top of them learning to ride bigger bikes, learning the racecraft, these kids are also learning Spanish and Italian, and they're learning public speaking, and they're learning like the art of being on camera and talking about sponsors and and it's super interesting to watch. Like when you're into the culture of racing like Swigs and I are, it is really weird but interesting and like kind of creepy but also kind of fun to see these kids going through this journey of like trying to develop their social media in a very professional way at like age 13, and also learn how to give a speech, and every once in a while they like fall flat on their face, and then there's these like like at the same time like 27-year-old media people who are like, I should be on fucking ESPN, but here I am on like third-rate Speed Channel talking to these 14-year-old kids. Like I should be elevating my game as well, right? So everyone's kind of in this weird way almost twice as professional as they are when they're like at the MotoGP level. Because when the MotoGP guys win, they just fucking let the F word fucking fly and just go for it and whatever. And, Jack Miller's drinking beers out of boots all because they're like, there's nothing left to prove.
That was actually a great part of the race weekend is when Joel Kelso got his results, and then he got interviewed, and then he just let the F-bomb fly. And then everybody else in Moto 2 and Moto GP just said like, well, I guess it's open season now.
There must have been 6 races last year where they're like, we apologize for this racer's language. And I'm like, this isn't on like national broadcast. This is only available to people who are paying for this stream. Like, you don't have to fucking apologize. Like, what the fuck? Or why not have a clean stream that's on like a 10-second delay, and then like 2 other what would it possibly cost for 2 other commentaries? So you got a color commentary and a more colorful commentary. What would it possibly fucking cost, right? You don't, at this point, do you even need people to be there live at the race for a commentary? I think it helps, but
Yeah.
but like, let's say Swigs, like, what if, for example, somehow they were going to pay us They wouldn't have to fly us there. I'd prefer that they would, but you know, is it that crazy to just like have all the camera footage and everything and just have people do a more PG-13 or R-rated, you know? What? Because there's an Italian, there's a Spanish, there's a Japanese, there's a Chinese, there's a Filipino. Like the media room is full of people doing commentaries in like 20, not 20, but like a lot of fucking languages simultaneously.
Yeah. I mean, they should.
I feel like we do this every year. We like they put out the new fucking streaming app and they have to tweak it a little bit every year and it's never for the better.
That's true.
The only thing that gets better is like cuz you remember this, Swigs, is back in the day if you were trying to watch it live or the day after the race, like the bit rate went to a fucking crawl. It was not on enough servers. It was brutal. The frame rate would crash. It was rough to watch it. It is now up to snuff. You can get it in full 4K or whatever and stream it on whatever, and there's no issues with that. But again, back then there were cooler features like being able to watch like the Rookies Cup and shit like that. And now, like, yes, the races stream in better definition, smoother, but the only thing that they've added that's of any value to me is that, like, about 3 days before every race starts, like on Monday or Tuesday before any race weekend, a thing pops up that says like, Jerez or whatever. You can click on it, and before anything is started, like any of the press stuff on Thursday or anything like that, there's a link to watch that race from like the last 7 years. Like, oh, what was Jerez 2024, Jerez 2023, whatever. So you can watch, okay, who was good in this race in years before? What was last year's race for this round? But, I mean, anytime that you've got the MotoGP streaming... Well, hold on. Here's actually a thing that I haven't seen, Swigs. With the MotoGP streaming, you used to be able to watch all of MotoGP, like going back to like 1992 or some shit. I haven't seen that option for a minute. Did they take that away? Did they take the classic races off?
I don't think so. Let's see.
Because that was a cool thing. Especially during like the Valentino Rossi years, it was like, oh, you joined, you became a MotoGP fan in the middle of the Valentino Rossi years. Well, go back to his first races and and get a full education in this whole thing.
So there's an archive. It goes all the way back to 96.
Okay, that's probably as far back as it ever actually went. I thought it went back a little bit further, but okay. Okay, good. Okay.
Although I would recommend if you got the MotoGP pass, if you got the video pass, and you never saw it, it is interesting to go back and watch Marc Marquez's first year.
It's a big one. I would say Marc Marquez's first year, Quartararo's first year, Alex Marquez and Jack Miller's first year in Moto3. For Moto2, you have to watch Zarco's and Alex's again championships because there's so many key riders that are in those championships.
Mm-hmm. You can also go... At some point, I need to go back and watch Casey Stoner and Nikki Hayden's years.
See, Nikki Hayden is kind of when I really started getting into it. I would say I, uh, key years or key races to watch. I mean, again, like you can just Google like all the best Valentino wins. I mean, but I'll tell you what is getting like really left behind that we used to see flags for that I'll bet. Did you see any Jorge Lorenzo stuff this year?
I don't think so. No.
That's a shame. Jorge Lorenzo is quietly one of the best to ever do it. What was he? 4 championships? At least 3.
I want to say 4.
I thought it was 4 championships as well, which is, again, I mean, he's also a MotoGP legend. But 4 championships is fucking crazy, right?
Yeah. 5 if you include Moto 2.
Which I do.
Yeah, I think it's 5.
Yeah, 5. It's fucking nuts. Fucking nuts. Like, at the top is Giacomo Agostini, but it was such a different kind of racing. It's hard to translate it into what it really means today. Like, what would he have done on like today's machinery or even like 90s machinery? And the disparity between machines back then was so much bigger than it was even in the 90s. It's hard to say. So some people put Giacomo as the very top ever because because Valentino won 9 championships, but didn't Giacomo win like 13 or something like that? And like Valentino had like 96 wins or something like that, and Giacomo had like 130 or something like that. Like, technically, Agostini is ahead, but it's like people kind of have like a little bit of a translation in it in like 60s racing versus 90s, and they're like, Valentino's way better. It's hard to say between Valentino and Agostini who's the greatest, but it's definitely between those two right now. But again, Marc Marquez wants to change that. Marc Marquez deeply wants to change that. Which, I think, honestly, if I'm going to rate the greatest of all time, I put it more in just sort of their audience capture, right? Giacomo, Marquez, and Valle are all such unique personalities and unique racers with unique riding styles. At this point, honestly, they're all kind of equal for me. I'm not going to get into the minutia of counting up wins and podiums and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Danny Pedrosa is definitely, in that Hall of Fame. But if we're talking like the most elite of the elite of the elite, Marquez, Rossi, and Agostini are the 3 names and are going to be the 3 names for some time to come. Like I would have no problem with someone putting say Petrosa and Lorenzo like in the same conversation, but no one's putting Petrosa and Lorenzo with those top 3 like at the very top of the mountain, right? And
I mean, there is also kind of this is where I think, if you want to put the American perspective on it a little bit, this is I think the reason when everyone counts championships, they have to include Moto 2 and Moto 3, is because when you go back and look at it, like Eddie Lawson has like 5 years where he wins, and it's like one in between. Like he wins like 5 out of 6 years, basically,
Yeah.
and they're all MotoGP because the Americans are like, I'm not racing in your 250cc league. Fuck you. I'm I'm an American. I'm gonna come over here and just start winning. Back in the glory days of America dominating GP.
Of America dominating everything.
Yeah.
In the 80s, I don't know that they're like if the Americans fucking cared to, they could have dominated curling in the 80s. But they were like, that's some weird Canadian shit. I don't know. But if anyone had put half a thought into it, right? The 80s was a period where in a pro wrestling match between a guy from Alabama and a guy from Texas, the crowd would just start chanting USA, USA, USA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think,
because
like,
the U.S. was just on fucking top of everything.
but like, I mean, if you just look at the numbers, like you go back to the 80s and 90s, like between Eddie Lawson and Wayne Rainey, that's basically like Rossi and Lorenzo's matches. Rossi and Lorenzo's results.
That's true. I mean, yeah. When you talk about what the strata are of the most winning, and the greatest, and
Can you grab me one?
yeah, it's tough. You're right. We should include more of these '80s guys because that was such a great. There's a strong argument that like the late '80s was the greatest time in motorcycle racing. And not only that, it was the greatest time for American racing in general. There were more American guys in Formula One. Like IndyCar was at its IndyCar is at its best now. It's just that no one fucking cares. Ooh, that's tough to. Yeah, the Who's Greatest game can go on forever, right? I'm just saying that there's such a rarefied air space that right now a lot of people in recent memory have achieved. And I don't understand why this sport isn't more fucking popular. Like, okay,
I would say definitely.
Here's a great way to sort of like wind down to an ending of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the beginning of another season. We're only 3 races in. And how many races is this season? Like 21 races? Something like that?
It's a lot. It's over 20.
Well, it's been over 20 for at least the last 4 or 5 years. It used to only be 18. I think last year was supposed to be 23, but like 2 rounds got canceled.
So we're less than a seventh of the way in.
Right. There is plenty of time to pay your $168, which I know it sounds like a lot, but it's less than a year of Netflix. And holy shit, you will enjoy this more than anything that you see on fucking Netflix. I promise you. Netflix is just a fucking wasteland of bullshit, except for apparently the new Wallace and Gromit movie. I'm tempted actually to do a 1-month trial of Netflix to see the new Wallace and Gromit movie. Not gonna lie. They might have me there.
Just come over to our house.
So actually one thing we did miss that we should need to bring up is finally It seems like it might be Jake Dixon's year.
This is true. Jake Dixon is putting it together so far, but he's done this in the past.
It's true, but
What was it 2 seasons ago? Jake Dixon was looking real strong through like round 7, and then it just fell off a cliff.
well, Jake Dixon looked great the whole year for the first 5 laps, essentially.
Yeah.
But hasn't crashed yet. 59 points in 3 races.
I would love to see Jake Dixon. Jake Dixon winning Moto 2 this year would make me very happy. I think he deserves it. I think he has the talent. He's 29. It's kind of his last chance to do it and then get to GP, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but let's just say that this was the end of the road for Jake Dixon. That's an amazing career, right? Like so Claire's favorite racer for a few years was uh what's his name? Not Takaaki Namagami.
Ayogura?
No. Maybe it was Takaaki Namagami. Anyway, he didn't get a ride this year. And so Claire was Googling it, and she was like, well, you know, some people were saying like, oh, he got kicked out, he was no good. And then there were people on Reddit that were like, fuck you, he spent like 7 years in Moto 3. This is miles beyond what most racers fucking dream of. What are you talking about? He was like on the world stage, like, you know, people like hung on like, you know, his race results, you know, for the better part of a decade in Moto 3. What are you fucking talking about? A failure. This is fucking ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're in Moto 3 and you can't hack it, I mean, like, you're still in, like...
the top 100 of all riders in the world.
Yeah, or, I mean, a lot of people do kind of fall out every year, but you're definitely in the top 200 of racers, of road racing motorcyclists in the world. Like, hands down.
Yeah, I mean, there's like roughly like 30 riders in each class. I mean, we can probably say top 100 because, well, I'll say you're at least in the top 150. There might be, if you're on Moto 3, there might be a few guys running like world super bikes that might be able to beat you or whatever. But yeah, if you're in Moto 3 at all, I'm going to say you're in the top 150.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you make it to a second year or something, I mean, it's fucking cutthroat. There are plenty of people that only do 1 year. Plenty. It's, yeah, there's not a lot that hang out for the better part of a decade. Like, just because you don't make it to Moto 2 doesn't mean you're a failure. Okay? That's like saying, like, oh, you had a music career and supported yourself, like, and your family, like, your whole life making music. What, you never won a Grammy? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, how we rate success and how we, you know, which is kind of what makes Marc Marquez such an interesting character, in that he's at the top of the mountain. He's in the conversation of the top 3 of all time best ever to do it, and he's still doing it. And I know it keeps him awake at night that he hasn't gotten to 10 championships yet. Right?
Yeah.
What a bizarre place to be in your life.
Yeah.
He's 29, and this is consuming him. What a bizarre thing, right? Like, I mean, it's like having it's like being on some sort of special mission, like some sort of like Avengers style mission where you have to save the world. And it's all the importance of saving the world, except it's not about saving the world. It's just your own personal fucking glory.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of almost like just because, as soon as you hit 30, like, you're basically ancient in MotoGP. And this is sort of like the male equivalent of like the female-led drama where it's like, I've got to have my career, I need to make partner at the law firm, and then once I've made partner, I can take time off and have a kid. But like for him, it's just I've got to get my 10th championship, and then I can retire and die.
It's super interesting. But again, I just want to spend a few minutes here, why? So here we go, Mike. You've been with us doing this podcast for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Is
You
this
mean
the
tonight
year?
or for years?
For years. Is this the year you can commit to watching a whole season of MotoGP?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think you should.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd get a lot out of it. You've watched, probably 5 races a year
Mm-hmm.
for a few years. And
Yeah.
you come over and we'll watch races and you're like, okay, this is good. But like any sports, it doesn't get a tenth of as good as it can get until you get a season into it and you start knowing who's who.
Mm.
And you don't have to be told, like, oh, this guy won the last race and this guy's this way in the points. You just know.
Yeah.
And you're
They have long
following
careers.
it. Yeah. Well, they have long careers, but I'm saying, like, you don't, like, even just, like, getting one whole season in, then you start the next season and you have an entire basis of where everyone was last year. Now here's where they are this year. And everything's in a context. Every rider, every team, every grid position, every qualifying, it's all in a context.
Mm.
It's like you're not really like kind of like a diehard MotoGP fan until you're into qualifying.
Yeah.
Right? Because all of a sudden qualifying gets really interesting because you're like, oh, you start seeing how the chess pieces are lining up on Friday morning, and they're just waiting to make those moves until Sunday. And but Swigs, if someone has absolutely like no intro to motorcycle racing at all, what can push people into checking out GP? I will say that there is a stream of it on HBO for free. It's not as good of a stream, but I mean, I don't know. That's something people could try, but like what else can push people towards doing this?
Honestly, people should just go and watch, just go on like YouTube Shorts or Instagram and look up Marc Marquez and go see, and if you search for him,
best moments reels, and
yeah, like just watching him like when he was in his Jedi phase.
saving it with his elbow.
Yeah, where he would crash in a turn and then like pick the bike up with his knee and elbow and get back on the tires and save it.
That was really good stuff because he did it like 3 or 4 times,
like
it
in
was
crucial
something
races.
else.
Like he when in his last championship win, when it came down to the last race and he was ahead, and he crashed in a turn from the lead and saved it and still won.
Like the body work is scraping on the ground, the tires are skidding, and he just shoved his knee and elbow into the racetrack and picked the bike back up.
This is something
And
that like
won the
nobody
race.
even believed
Yeah.
was possible at the time.
And he did it like
Over
3 or
and
4 times
Yeah. Just
at crucial moments in races. It's unbelievable. A couple other people have done it since, but still no one as much as Marquez. Like a couple people have each managed to do it one time. Now they know it's a thing that can be done.
yeah. I mean, I think it was also kind of a. I think it also was. It happened during the period of before they had everyone had was forced to use spec ECUs. So I think there was probably a little bit of Honda magic involved as well.
Could be. It could be.
But yeah, just some of the ridiculous things like you should go watch the like his legendary qualifying lap at Coda where he like abandoned his bike.
Oh, he
What-
crashed his number 1 bike.
No, he didn't crash it. It had an ECU error. And then he just abandoned. He like
Oh, yeah.
propped it up against the wall at the end of pit lane.
Ran back into the pits and then left the pit lane with seconds to spare to get around on a slow lap to then hit a flying fast lap and on his number 2 bike set the top qualifying time.
Yeah, and that was when, and that was I think, like, now we've got aero and other things, and they've made refinements to make the bikes faster, but like, that was the pinnacle of like Honda dominance.
I think Ducati was running winglets that year, but no one else was. Yeah, the Hondas weren't.
But-
That was at the very beginning of that crazy aero stuff.
But that's also like that amazing shot of like Marquez like braking with his heel on the ground to like help slow him down more with the rear wheel hovering in the air.
Hold on, can we talk about Marquez doing 4 laps with no right peg last weekend? So, at Coda this last week, Marc Marquez is a uniquely stubborn man. And
Yeah.
he crashed. So Marc Marquez has won this race 8 times, which is more than anyone has won any particular race ever.
That's not true. He's won it 6 times. He has 8 pole positions.
Oh, 8 pole position. Okay, he's won it 6 times. But again, no one's ever won a race more than like 4 times. It's a crazy I think Valentino won not Imola,
Mugello?
like 4 times or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
Nobody and nobody has gotten pole 8 times on a single track
Right.
ever until now.
Like the first 4 times he podiumed and won this race, they used to call him the King of America, and somehow that nickname disappeared. It's the greatest fucking nickname in
It's
racing ever.
ridiculous.
The King of America. Because Spain still is a fucking king, right? So they call him the King of America. It's fucking great, right? Anyway. So this is like Marc Marquez's track, and every year people are like, Marquez is just gonna win it again because he's won it so many fucking times. He's always the favorite, no matter what. And even we were there 2 years ago when the Honda was absolute dog shit. People were like, I don't know, Marquez is gonna win it. Then all of a sudden, Rins won it on a fucking factory, a satellite Honda, like some fucking weird shit. But anyway. Marc Marquez crashed this year and went back to 18th place from a 2.5 second lead, something like that.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy. Had no windshield, no right foot peg. You cannot race a motorcycle without a foot peg. You could probably make it a couple laps without a windshield at 93% of your top speed. But on lap 3, the muscles in your neck will give out from all the wind, right? But no right foot peg means you cannot properly lean the bike over. But
Yeah.
he was just digging in his heels to whatever weird parts of the bike he could find. And he went like, what, 4, maybe even 5 laps before he brought it in?
Yeah, it was a long
Because he
time.
crashed on, what, lap 9? And he
So,
pitted on like lap 15 or something?
yeah. So, like, I mean, you can't hear all the commentators when the bikes are going around, like, in the stadium. So, I only got, like, 60% of the commentary. I didn't know that he had lost his foot peg until after the race.
This, you have to, if you lose a foot peg, most riders would just bring it in immediately. They'd be like, "Oh, I can't race on this.
Most
It's
riders
not
would
safe."
pick up the bike, see the foot peg was gone, and then just, like, hand the bike over to the stewards and walk off the track.
Yes. Even if the championship was on the line, they'd be like, "Well, this is just unrideable." Marc Marquez, I think that he has won this race so much, and he was so much the favorite. I think
Some part of him believed that he could have just made up 4 or 5 places and got some points still.
I think he thought that he might get back to the front,
Actually, yeah.
which is like thinking you could like lasso the moon. Like, it's just not doable.
It's the same energy as like, yeah, I could fight a grizzly bear. I could do that.
Yeah, it's like, do I get prep time? Is the bear drunk? I can take him. Right? Yeah, it's yeah. But Marc Marquez is just this weird, like, force of nature that he was like, no, I have to go out there with no windshield, no foot peg, like a huge gaping hole in the side of this motorcycle, and just go for it still. And it's hard to not like that. It's hard, like, as much as like you see the fans, like, there was a great moment on the broadcast when he crashed. They always do a replay of fans going like, "Oh no," like when their favorite riders crash. When Marquez crashed, they did this one of like an 8-year-old girl, and her face is just destroyed. She's just like, like, it's like, it is brutal to watch this girl go through this emotional journey in slow-mo. But Marquez, I don't know if like he feels it for the fans or for himself or whatever, but there is something in him that is, I think, even like beyond Michael Jordan, beyond Kobe Bryant, beyond whatever sports figure you could think of. Like, he is in that rarefied air, and some of it is heroic. I think more of it might be straight up psychopath. But there is
There's
something
an element of that, yeah.
there. There is something about this guy that I have to admit is crazy captivating. Something about this guy that is not entirely human. That is something beyond human. For good or bad, doesn't matter, but it is captivating. And I encourage people to tune in now and watch him do this, because he might have one more year and a half of keeping this up. But he's 29 now. He's not going to keep it up at this rate. And there are a back catalog of recent seasons of him doing some crazy shit, like reinventing the game, as they say.
Yeah.
And love him or hate him, everyone has to admit this guy has reinvented the game. And Swigs will tell you, 2 years ago, I wrote him off.
Yeah.
He got injured badly, and I thought he would never get back to this level. And he is there. I have to eat my fucking words.
Yeah.
What is human? What is truth?
Quality.
Quality. You know what I found in a drawer earlier today? I just randomly was going through stuff and I found the I bought a sticker when we went to Coda. They didn't, because I'm really particular about stuff, and they didn't have a sticker just to slap on my bike that I wanted for our trip. And this was like 5 years ago.
You wanted like the outline of the track.
The track, and
Yeah.
I ordered it on like Etsy, and it just like ended up in a drawer in an envelope, and I was like, oh, this is that sticker I ordered. So today tomorrow it's going on the bike. It's sitting on top of the
Which bike?
my Buell. That's the one I'm slapping all my stickers on. The Ulysses.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, anyway, we're at like 2 hours and 45 minutes. Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about?
I think this is a good place to call it. We've padded out away from the disaster start we had. I think we're good.
Yeah. I think we can end this one.
I think you can just title this one "It Gets Better."
It's better. Well, I do shout out. We have a new intern who is doing some YouTube shorts editing for us. This I will say, Mike, I already had to tell our new intern. I had to slap him a couple times. You'll notice, Mike, if you go check out the YouTube channel. They made their first YouTube short that I had them edit. They edited your moment trying to surreptitiously leave the podcast
Oh, that.
on camera, and I hate to admit this, Mike. It has like 5 times as many views as the actual video from the first episode we put on YouTube.
Oh, what are you doing? to
Just
us,
that
Peter?
moment. So, So, if you want, after this, we'll go down to the basement and you can personally slap Tanner with an H across the face as hard as you want. All right, let's bring up the sound effects and let's run the outro. And then Tanner with an H can fucking get to editing this shit. And I don't want to die, just want to ride on my Moto.